Yo, what's good, chat? Late. I went to go play golf today with my brother. We played at a par 3 course, 9 holes. Unfortunately, I lost by 1. He shot 45, I shot 46. I had 3 lip outs, which is very unfortunate. Not something I wanted. I feel like I would have had a better chance of winning if it didn't happen. But anyways, that's golf for you. I enjoyed it, had fun. We also had barbecue right after. Buzz down Tatiana. But without further ado, let's get into it. This may be a very short video. So let's get into it. Number 3. The judge was middle-aged. Wait, quick pause. Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. The judge was middle-aged, tall, white-haired, with an accent that put his roots squarely in the borough of Brooklyn. Let's call him Solomon. He had served on the bench in New York State for over a decade. He wasn't imperious or intimidating. He was thoughtful with a surprisingly gentle manner. This was a Thursday, which is a courtroom, was typically a busy day for arraignments. The defendants were all people who had been arrested in the past 24 hours on suspicion of some kind of crime. They just spent a sleepless night in a holding cell, and now they were being brought into the courtroom in handcuffs. One by one, they sat on a low bench behind a partition just to Solomon's left. When each case was called, the clerk would hand Solomon a file containing the defense rap sheet, and he would start flipping through, bringing himself up to speed. The defendant would stand directly in front of Solomon with his lawyer on one side and the district attorney on the other. The 2 lawyers would talk, Solomon would listen, then he would decide if the defendant would be required to post bail, and if so, how much would the bail should be. Does this perfect stranger deserve his freedom? The hardest cases, he said later, involved kids. A 16-year-old would come in charge with some horrible crime, and he would know that if he set bail high enough, the child would end up in a cage in the city's notorious Rikers Island facility, where, he put it as delicately as he could, there's basically a riot waiting to happen at every turn. Those cases got even harder when he looked up into the courtroom and saw the kid's mom sitting in the gallery. I have a case like this every day, he said. He had taken up medication. He found that made things easier. Solomon was faced day in, day out with a version of the same problem that had faced Neville Chamberlain in the British diplomatic service in the fall of 1938. He was asked to assess the character of a stranger, and the criminal justice system assumes, as Chamberlain did, that those kinds of difficult situations are better when the judge and the judged met each other first. Later that afternoon, for example, Solomon was confronted with an older man with thinning, close-cropped hair. He was wearing blue jeans and a Guyabera shirt and spoke only Spanish. He had been arrested because of an incident involving the 6-year-old grandson of his girlfriend. The boy told his father right away. The district attorney asked for $1,000 bail. There was no way the man had the resources to raise that money. If Solomon agreed with the DA, the men in the Guayabera would go straight to jail. On the other hand, the man denied everything. He had 2 previous criminal offenses, but there were misdemeanors from many years ago. He had a job as a mechanic, which he would lose if he went to jail, and he had an ex-wife and a 15-year-old son whom he was supporting with that income. So Solomon had to think about the 15-year-old relying on his father's paycheck. He also surely knew that 6-year-olds are not the most reliable of witnesses. So there was no way for Solomon to be sure whether this would all turn out to be a massive misunderstanding or part of some sinister pattern. In other words, the decision about whether to let the man in the Goria barrier go free or to hold him in jail until trial was impossibly difficult. And to help him take the right call, Solomon did what all of us would do in this situation. He looked the man right in the eyes and tried to get a sense of who he really was. So did that help? Or are judges subject to the same puzzles as Novoyo Chamberlain? I think I didn't talk about this in the last video, but I think this is a really upfront case of what it's really like. Describing getting to know somebody that had maybe other people thought that they may be a criminal, they may be, a Nazi like Hitler, but when confronted in a situation where you have to make a decision of not only what kind of person they really are, but also the consequences that they are going to face based on these assumptions, is very fascinating. I feel like being a judge, as we know, it is a very difficult job, but to hear it in this perspective is also a different way of communicating it. Not only the example of the Spanish man, I'm Hispanic, and to see that is very, it's interesting. But also from the judge perspective of how do you judge, or how do you get to really know somebody on a deeper level if one, let's say that they did make that, horrific crime, are they going to change? Or better yet, did they even do that crime? All these different factors that come into play with the mothers, with the kids, their future, the resources that they currently have, all those come into play. So it's very fascinating. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna cut it short. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.